With the end of January fast approaching, I bet you thought I forgot about this, didn't you? Well, I didn't. I was honestly having a hard time deciding exactly how I wanted to do it. 2014 was actually a really good year for me because I only played a few games that I really hated. So I'm going to count them all down in one long video. As always, these are games I either beat in 2014 or put enough effort into them in 2014 to decide I didn't want to bother continuing. These are my top 5 worst and top 10 best games of 2014. Let's start off with the worst. First of all, an honorable mention in Fez. Unfortunately, since from what I played the game itself seems very good, I can't actually put this game on the list. But Phil Fish is an asshole and I never want to actually play it anymore. I have it hidden deep in the bowels of my Steam list so I never have to be reminded that I actually own it, and if I could sell games back for Steam credit, I totally would. I admit it's petty and spiteful, but you know what? So is canceling a game you were excited to make just because somebody treated you badly on Twitter. Number 5, Oregon Trail. On the surface, this seems like an absolutely brilliant idea. Oregon Trail, set as a zombie apocalypse simulator where you have to manage the health of your party and supplies as you travel west, not in a covered wagon, but a station wagon. But when I actually sat down and played it, I found the same problems I encountered with the original Oregon Trail. It's too damn easy. As long as you play intelligently and take your time, you will have no problem getting through this game, probably with all of your party members left over. Even on the hardest difficulty, I managed to beat it without any of my party members dying, and the only way to accomplish that is to take your time and meticulously manage your supplies for the entire game. And by then, it's not even fun, it's just a tedious 3-hour-long play session. It's as much fun as doing a school assignment, but without the added benefit of going to Disney World if you get straight A's. If you want a much better Oregon Trail-inspired roguelike action game, one that you can play to the end in about 30 minutes, check out number 10 for my best of list. Number 4, Thomas Was Alone, Benjamin's Flight. Talk about disappointment. I have a lot more to say about the original game, but Benjamin's Flight is one of the most baffling game design choices I've experienced this year. The vague allegory used in the original game is thrown away for a story about a boy and his jetpack. Just... what? And don't argue that it's supposed to be used as a metaphor to represent any kind of knowledge or advancement in technology. They literally use the word jetpack. How else am I supposed to interpret that? Mike Bithell, what the fuck? A jetpack? Seriously? And beyond that, even the level design seemed to take a huge step back, suddenly focusing primarily on manual dexterity and timing instead of planning and puzzle solving. This was such a step down after the main game. I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed. Number 3, Final Fantasy XIII. Well, this game happened. That's literally what I wrote in the log after completing it almost a year ago. I think the most frustrating part of Final Fantasy XIII is the fact that there is a good game under the surface here. The combat system takes some getting used to, but it does work. It's not poorly coded or buggy or anything. The party actually does what you tell them to do in terms of general combat roles. But it's a good execution of a bad idea. That's what makes it so frustrating. They create this amazingly detailed world, but only ever let you see a tiny hallway of it. They create this really intriguing stat growth system, but make it almost entirely linear. They take amazing graphics and voice acting and use it to tell one of the most baffling, plot hole-ridden stories in recent memory, most of which is portrayed through optional text logs. The only place this game actually starts to get good is by the time you reach Grand Pulse, but by then you're already sick of everything and just want it to end. I actually kind of want to see the modding community get a hold of this game and try to make it good. Open up the maps, change the Crystarium around to give the players more choice. Maybe if the gameplay were more engaging, less people would complain about the story. But as it stands, I only beat this game as a formality after constant poking from a friend of mine who legitimately likes it. Whatever, man. To each his own. Number 2, Guild Wars 2. It seems every year I end up adding another MMORPG to the pile of games I tried and didn't like. And this year, it's Guild Wars 2. I really liked this game when I started out. I liked that you only had to buy it once and there was no monthly fee, so it didn't feel like the game was forcing me to play it all the time. This meant it was a great way to relax when I wanted to play an MMO without feeling like I was wasting my money when I didn't. But then I started to encounter the annoying bits. After about level 15 or so, it suddenly became impossible to solo anything. So now I'm given 2 options: sit patiently with a looking for group message up begging higher level players to help me out, or grind until I'm a high enough level to solo 6 enemies at once. Oh wait, the game scales your level down to whatever area you're in, so you will never be able to solo them. Now I have been told that, quote, it scales your level but not your equipment, I think. Even the people who play this game don't even know what the fuck's going on. Now, you could argue, well, what do you expect? It's called Guild Wars, and it's an MMO. You're supposed to play with other people. It's about community. Well, thanks a lot. I started playing video games because I don't have any friends, and now I'm being punished for playing games without any friends. Thanks a lot, game. Thanks a whole fucking lot. Sometimes I feel like this game is being wasted just sitting on my shelf and it keeps tempting me to play it. But every time I think about it, I just have to remind myself, no, you're just gonna spend the entire time either dying constantly or looking for someone to help you. If I wanted to do that, I do own Dark Souls. And the #1 worst game of 2014 is Dear Esther. Dear Esther, I want my money back. This is not a game. This is an art piece that somehow ended up on Steam with a $10 price tag. In 10 years, we're going to be looking back at games like this with the same bewilderment as stuff like Make My Video or the Game Boy Advance video cartridges. I have nothing against art, and I have nothing against art games. But if you're going to be calling something a game, you have to meet us halfway, developers. There is nothing in this game. It's like they designed a series of levels but forgot to actually put a game around it. You can get the exact same experience walking around the map in Skyrim while listening to someone else read you the book entries, or exploring some of the silent stories from the Fallout games. And you know what else those games had? Actual gameplay! There were objectives, and characters, and storylines, and actual threats that needed to be overcome. People have praised the graphics in this game, and they do look good, but they really don't seem that much more impressive than something like The Elder Scrolls. Dear Esther is all the fun of solving the maze on a placemat at Denny's while waiting for the food to come and listening to your parents talk about their sister who died in a car accident, and then leaving before you actually get to eat anything. I got this game on sale and I still feel ripped off. Maybe if it were longer or had more replay value beyond a few randomly determined objects strewn around or lines of narration, if there were more to explore or some sort of objective to find all the secrets or even just solving puzzles, but as it stands, Dear Esther is an absolutely pointless game with a barely executed concept. It's pretentious, it's boring, and it thinks it's saying something different when in reality it's just wasting your time. And it personally offends me that someone thought this was actually worth paying full price for. If you are ever interested in playing this game, do me a favor, watch a playthrough of it on YouTube and donate the money to Child's Play instead. I'd rather help sick children get real games than give these pretentious jerk-offs any more attention than they deserve. And now it's time for the 10 best. Number 10, Super Amazing Wagon Adventure. It's a strange situation when there are two games I played this year that were inspired by Oregon Trail, but Super Amazing Wagon Adventure is the overall superior one. This is arcade simplicity at its finest. Every wagon you unlock has its advantages and disadvantages, and the random nature of the game just makes you want to keep playing each time. Unlike Oregon Trail, which tried to do too much and didn't succeed at any of it, Super Amazing Wagon Adventure does very little, but does it all so well and so effortlessly that you can't help but respect it. Number 9, Pokemon Crystal. When the Pokemon craze started, I picked up Pokemon Blue and then stopped. I didn't pick it up again until Pokemon Diamond, so there were 2 entire generations I skipped, and honestly, I didn't feel like I missed too much. However, out of curiosity, I went back and tried the 2nd generation entry and discovered just how much the series improved from the original release. I discovered just how much they really had added to the game, stuff like genders, day-night cycles, and internal clocks. People may complain that Pokemon is the same game every time it comes out with occasional improvements added, and it is hard to really contest that. But looking at that, I'm willing to argue that the jump between Gen 1 and Gen 2 was the most impressive leap forward for the series in terms of technical prowess. Now if only we could get an actual Pokemon MMORPG, Nintendo. Number 8, Cthulhu Saves the World. What can I say, this game is just adorable. You can get it for a song on Steam and enjoy the laid-back story, humorous dialogue, and surprisingly good attention to detail. It doesn't ever try to do too much and works within the limitations that it's set for itself, while also providing a surprisingly good number of unique design aspects, like choosing how you'll develop your character, increasing the difficulty of monsters as the battle goes on, and even integrating Cthulhu's insanity-causing presence into the combat. Anybody who wants to use RPG Maker to tell the story of their self-insertion Mary Sue and think they're going to take the internet by storm, play this game first and then kindly return to your dungeon, because this is what you're going to have to compete with. Number 7, The Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable is what Dear Esther should have been. This game is fucking hilarious, and it's even funnier if you've ever worked as a game tester or a game developer yourself. I remember clearly having to play through the same level over and over again trying to get something unusual to happen, and that's pretty much exactly how this game works. The way they abuse existing video game tropes and the interplay between the player and the narrator are well worth the price of admission. The Stanley Parable seems to even make fun of pretentious walking simulators, but isn't afraid to poke fun at itself either. The only major gripe I have is that unless you have a map or guide, it's almost impossible to find all the special endings, and that's really unfortunate because some of these are just spectacular in terms of their scope and creativity. I can guarantee you will encounter something in this game that you will truly not expect. Number 6, Risk of Rain. Holy fuck do I love this game. I once streamed Risk of Rain for 7 hours straight without even realizing it. I just looked at the clock and it was 4 AM and I had completely skipped dinner. This one deserves to go down as one of the great action roguelikes, alongside Binding of Isaac and Spelunky. You play as one of 10 passengers on a cargo ship that crash lands on a hostile alien planet, and it's a race against time to get off before the local environment kills you. Every character plays so differently from one another, but none of them feel like they're bad choices. It's one of the most balanced character rosters I've ever seen in a game like this, and it's simply a matter of finding which one best suits your playstyle or current mood. You have to make the choice between speeding through levels so the enemies don't get as strong, or spending time gaining experience points to make yourself more powerful. Plus, it even has online co-op, so you can play with your friends and help each other survive together. Even Spelunky doesn't have online co-op. Come on, Mossmouth, what are you waiting for? These guys beat you to it. Number 5, Hotline Miami. I've been on a major indie kick this year, haven't I? There is not another game that looks or plays quite like Hotline Miami. The music and visual effects create a very intriguing but slightly uncomfortable world of sleazy bars, back alley murders, and animal mask wearing hitmen. The top-down perspective, beyond being more rare than you would think in the world of games, almost acts to disjoint you from the horrors your character is actually committing. In a way, it's more disturbing to see this from up above than over the shoulder. One of the first things I was able to do in this game was kick open a door, knock out my target, then take boiling water from the stove and pour it on his face to finish him off. If the levels were procedurally generated to give it more replay value, it would have been even higher on the list, but this is easily the most violent, bloody, and viscerally entertaining game I've played all year. The developers created an awesome experience, and I'm not ashamed to admit that I absolutely loved it. Of course, any game where you get to wear a walrus mask must be doing something right. Number 4, Minecraft. What can I say? It's fucking Minecraft. I've been playing this game for years and it will never go away. But I finally get to put it on my list because I actually defeated the Ender Dragon legit for the first time this year. I have a theory that Minecraft was a success because it filled a void that nobody really knew existed. Oh sure, there have been games where you could create your own levels, or build towns, or grow and harvest crops, or collect resources to improve your equipment, but nothing on the scale of this. And then once the modding community got a hold of it, it just became an entirely different beast altogether. You could do pretty much anything in this game. When our generation designs games, we like to name inspirations like Super Mario Bros., Metroid, Mega Man, but there's an entire generation of gamers growing up now that are going to place Minecraft at the top of their list, and that is a thought that makes me very happy. This is the kind of game that should inspire people to create things, whether with blocks of stone or blocks of programming code. Even if you don't like the game, you cannot deny the effect Minecraft has had on the industry in the past and will have in years to come. Number 3, Borderlands 2. Oh, Gearbox, you spoil me. As the sequel to one of my favorite games of 2011, it would have been enough to just create more of the same, maybe set it on a different planet like Promethea. So when I heard it was going to take place on Pandora again, I was actually really disappointed. I thought it was a wasted opportunity. But boy was I wrong. Borderlands 2 not only lives up to its predecessor, but surpasses it in pretty much every way possible. Borderlands 2 is a sequel in every sense of the word. It's not just the next game in the series, it actually continues the story from the previous game. That's a surprisingly rare thing in games these days. I absolutely love the world that's been set up for these games. There is a lot of care and attention to detail when creating this universe, not just with characters that have been established, but ones that have yet to be revealed as well. You get the sense they have a plan, they're not making it up as they go along, and if they are, it's very well integrated. And of course, beyond that, the game is filled to the brim with fun missions, hilarious dialogue, awesome characters, great plot twists, exciting combat, unique weapons, creative skills, and dozens of different ability trees to experiment with. Gearbox has absolutely won me over, and there is a very good chance the pre-sequel is going to be on next year's list as well. Number 2. Thomas Was Alone. This game is absolutely beautiful. If anybody ever dares to argue that video games can't be art, they should be required by law to sit down and play this game immediately. I have never felt so connected to a fucking rectangle in my entire life. Every character in this game has personality traits that you will recognize in other people, and the story is deliberately vague enough so that it can be interpreted in almost any way you choose. It even makes for an excellent Rorschach test. Which character do you identify with the most? The level design makes you figure out every character's strengths and abilities and forces you to plan ahead, but it also understands that it's trying to tell a story, and there's nothing worse than being locked out of completing a story just because the game designers decided to be assholes. But unlike something like Dear Esther, Thomas Was Alone is still an actual game. You have to solve puzzles and overcome obstacles, and there's a definite objective in each level. And while that is secondary to telling the story, it doesn't use that as an excuse to give you half-assed level design. Thomas perfectly balances the narrative-driven gameplay of an interactive story and the puzzle-solving aspects of each stage to create something that will go down in history as a masterpiece of indie gaming, and you owe it to yourself to play it if you haven't already. And my number 1 best game of 2014 is Legend of Grimrock 2. The hardest choice I had to make this year was between Grimrock 2 and Thomas. They are both games of such high quality, the only deciding factor is going to be quantity, and Legend of Grimrock 2 simply has so much more content in it. As a gamer, Grimrock tested not only my puzzle-solving abilities and analytical thinking skills, but also inventory management, mouse control, character manipulation, and even memory. The final boss got my heart racing and forced me to abuse quick save and quick load like a motherfucker. But I have no shame in admitting that. The final boss is exactly the kind of difficult fight you would expect in a game that takes no prisoners and holds nothing back. When you win, you feel like you fucking earned it. The first Legend of Grimrock made by List last year, and Grimrock 2 improves upon every aspect of the original, almost so much as to make the first obsolete. You have massive outdoor maps to explore, underwater and multi-layered dungeons, spells and secrets that are hidden all over the island, and replay value in the form of multiple races and classes to choose from. My friend was so anxious for me to complete this game just so we could discuss theories about the ending, and that's the sign of a truly spectacular game, when you simply can't get enough. Thank you so much, Almost Human, for creating not only my favorite game of 2014, but one of my absolute favorite new franchises as well. Thank you all for your support of this channel over the last few years, and I'll be sure to keep working on new videos and content as much as possible. Be sure to follow me on Hitbox or Twitter and join me when I'm streaming because I love having company when I play these games. Take care everyone, and happy gaming.